Good morning. It's April 27th, 2016. I've done several videos about things that go on in my life. Because it's been a sucky life, believe me. Today I want to talk to all of you, and I want to address the children that have been victims of pedophile, as well as women that have been abused by men. That's why I'm on here today. Because I think it's time for all of us to take a stand. And when I finish telling you the facts, then maybe you'll see why we need to take a stand. So, anyway, I was living in Dallas, Texas. And I was working for an oil and gas man. He's a bit older, in his 60s. He was an ornery old codger, too. But I liked him. He was pretty alright, you know. And he needed a personal assistant to look after him because he had a wife and a mistress. And his mistress, she beat the living crap out of him all the time. She was mean, that one, you know. So, anyway, I was in Dallas, Texas, and I was out at this restaurant one evening. And I met this gentleman by the name of Dr. Stephen Franks from the Reading, UK. Graduated from college in London, and he had a chemistry degree, from what I remember. But he was working for a company called STG in, I think, around London. I think's where it was located. And anyway, he kept pursuing me. Pursuing me. I'm not kidding. Just wouldn't leave me the hell alone. And so every time he come to town, he'd call me up and he'd invite me out to dinner. And he'd take me to places like the Mansion, the Fig Tree, you know, all them swanky places in Dallas, you know, and outside of Dallas, too. And I'll just tell you, at first, I was absolutely enamored because he was smartly dressed, very clean, you know, spoke well, was educated, connoisseur of wines and various topics, so he was really smart. And I like brainy guys. I don't like muscle kind of guys. I like brainy guys. You know, that's my thing. So, anyway, as the months went by, and I was so enamored by him, he was controlling. I'm going to tell you, you heard about red flags, ladies? Yeah, big red flags. He was so controlling. He picked my food that I ate at the restaurant. He picked my wine. Oh my gosh, he picked my clothes, my makeup, my perfume, my jewelry, my furniture. He picked everything I had that I paid for. He didn't pay for nothing. I paid for it. Because when I started working for the old codger, as I call him, my sign-on bonus was $120,000. And then I got nice little paychecks. And then on top of it, my boss was kind of fun. Well, no, he wasn't kind of, he just was. And he used to like to go buy racehorses and things. And he'd drag me out to the racehorse place. And, you know, one day we was out there and he was trying to teach me how to gamble on horses. Because I didn't know anything about gambling, especially on horses. And so anyway, that day in particular, I picked a horse because I liked its name. And he's like, nah, you don't want that horse. I said, yeah, I like that name. I want that horse. Well, that horse was 36-1. And so he said, you don't want that horse. It doesn't do well, and it's in this position, and you know, because there's the inside and the outside and the mud and all these other things that go on with horse racing. And so I said, nope, I like that name of that horse. Well, that horse was 36-1, folks. And so I went and put $1,000 to win on that horse. And I put another $1,000, I think it was, on the trifecta, and $1,000 on the quinilla, with that same horse in it. And the only reason I done the quinilla part is because my boss, he said I was going to lose my money, and he was trying to show me how to diversify a little bit, because that's what that is, diversification, when you put some other horses in the mix, so your risk is less. So anyway, what do you bet happened? That horse won and come in 36-1. So I won a lot of money. $36,000 just on the win. So I had quite a bit of money saved up. And the reason I'd come to Texas in the first place was to go after a man that I was married to that was in the military. And he used to beat me like a basketball, put guns to my head, abuse me left and right. And he took my monies and everything, because my friends, I had some pretty influential friends, and they always made sure that I was looked after, because I always was real nice to everybody. And, I tried to take care of my friends, because to me, that was my family. And so anyway, this Dr. Stephen Franks, this Briton, he's from Britain, by the way, he's a Brit. Smart dress and all that, like I said. Well, he's convinced me to go to England. And he's got all my money. He comes over all these different trips, trip after trip, and he's taking back my money, having me get money out, and he's taking it back to the UK. And he tells me he's going to put it in the bank there for me. So we're going to get married, and, we're going to be living happily ever after. Well, I should have known something was wrong. Because he was controlling it first. Then he started picking on me. And what I say by picking on me is exactly this. I come home one afternoon, and there's this underage girl in my bed, and he's flopping around on her like a fish out of water. And he's grunting like an animal. I swear. And, oh my God, I was horrified. I was so disgusted, and I was angry and sad and shocked. I mean, you have no clue. Well, anyway, I told him to get the hell out of my apartment. And I went in the living room to wait, because I was so sick of watching him flop around on top of her, because I couldn't understand why he would do such a thing like that to me. Because he would always treated me like a princess, except for he was really controlling. And so, anyway, he comes, you could just hear him, like an animal. And I guess he's a flopping around on her, and he just couldn't get his flag to wave. And so he comes in the living room, and I'm sitting there, and tears are just rolling, and I'm just heartbroken, And I was just like, get out, And you know what he says to me? He was doing it for me. Yep, folks, he was doing it for me. Because, see, it was me that was flawed. Because, I was shy sexually. And, I was inhibited. And he had gotten this underage girl to teach me to let go and to be more free about my sexual self. I swear, this is what happened that day. And so, anyway, he had me so twisted in my mind, I didn't know if I was coming or going. And he already had my money, so I was stuck. And so I went ahead and went to England eventually, although I was supposed to fly over by myself, and he was waiting for me in England, and I purposely missed the plane. I wouldn't get on the plane. So he come and got me and took me to the UK, to Reading, UK. And when I got there that first week, he took my passport. A passport, the first one I'd ever had. Didn't know anything about a passport, just knew you needed it in order to fly to another country. Didn't understand anything about rules or safety, anything about passports. So he takes my passport and tells me he's putting it away safe for me. And so I just said, okay, well, I guess he's just trying to look after me. That's the way Stephen is. He's controlling. He's just one of them kind of guys that's controlling. And so anyway, so he's got my passport and he's got my money. And when I'd asked when we was going to go to the bank and set up my accounts, he told me that I was not a citizen of that country and that there were some things he'd have to do first before I could open a bank account. Because I was on a holiday visa thing there in the UK. And because that's how he arranged it for me. So anyway, I'm there that first month, but he tells me never to answer the home phone, which I thought was kind of strange. But, hey, it's his phone, right? So I don't answer the phone until one day I'm a-cleaning and organizing in the house, and I'm putzing around in the kitchen while he's at work, and the phone keeps ringing. That thing must have rang a dozen times. And I mean one right after the other. So I thought, well, maybe Stephen was calling and something was wrong, so I thought I better answer the telephone. And so I answered the telephone, and this female voice, young girl, she's wanting to know where Dr. Franks is. And I said, well, he's at work. And she wants to talk to him. And so anyway, I told her he was at work, and then she asked who I was. And I said, well, I'm Dr. Franks' fiance. And she says, what? And I said, I'm Dr. Franks' fiance, and I'm from America. Well, she hesitates a minute or so, and then I said, is there something I can help you with? And she says, well, actually, she says, I want to talk to Dr. Franks. And she was quite, you could tell she was upset about something, And so anyway, so I'm talking to her, and I said, well, tell me about it, and I'll try to help you. Simple, Well, she tells me that she was getting ready to go to college. She was underage, by American standards, by the way, not by the UK standards, because the age of consent over there apparently was 16. And she tells me that Dr. Franks offered to help her move because she was going to college, and that he had gotten her really drunk and he had abused her. And she was very upset about it. And I guess why she was calling was to confront him. So, needless to say, I talked to her, and I told her I'd handle it, because I was in my 30s, And let me tell you something, folks. When Dr. Stephen Franks come through the front door, I said, well, so-and-so called from Edinburgh, Scotland. And I said, you lying, cheating piece of crap, right? And I slapped him smack in the face. Yes, I did. And I told him, don't you touch me. I was so angry. Well, then after that episode, it got worse. The house we were living in didn't belong to Dr. Stephen Franks. It belonged to a woman by the name of Merrill from Johannesburg, South Africa. And, Merrill was Dr. Franks' significant other. In fact, if I'm correct in my assumption, and I think I got part of the story, Merrill was the other woman that Dr. Stephen Franks cheated on his wife Jane with. Yeah, he did. Cheated on his wife, had 2 kids, and cheated on his wife with this woman from South Africa. And she was an executive in a company, and she had money. So she paid for the house in Reading, UK. Off a rushy way. Big, fancy, brick-looking house. Fancy from their standards anyway. Not ours, but theirs. And so she found out about me. So she made Dr. Stephen Franks sell the house. So we had to move to number 4 Goldthorpe Gardens. Right? So Dr. Franks, I'm sure, used my money to purchase that house. And because I know that the other one, as far as I know, hadn't been sold yet. And so we moved there. Well, it got even weirder. Dr. Franks got more controlling. He was already controlling me from the perspective of telling me that the IRA was bombing the UK. And when he would come home from work, I would say, well, how was your day? And you know what he would say to me? He would tell me that it was not a good day because they'd had a couple of bomb threats in the office. So here I am thinking, oh my God, this is awful. These IRA people, whoever they were, is bombing people's offices all over the UK. And I know it's an island, so I'm knowing it's not too big, because I did see it from the plane. So, anyway, and he'd tell me it wasn't safe for me to go out. So, I was pretty isolated. So, we moved number 4 Goldthorpe Gardens, and things just kept getting worse. In fact, when I was packing up our stuff and his stuff from the house off of Rushy Way, I come across some things in the house. Some electrical prods, handcuffs, torture sex devices, sexual toys, and stuff. And the handcuffs didn't even have any fuzzy stuff on them. They looked like police handcuffs, actually. And I thought it was kind of strange. And Dr. Franks told me that they belonged to him and Merrill. So I thought, okay. I didn't know any of this about Dr. Franks, because actually the truth of the matter is, Dr. Franks had a hard time waving his flag, if you know what I'm saying. So, anyway, well, things kept deteriorating. Things kept getting worse. Dr. Franks became more controlling. He started being really abusive to me. He choked me. He was extremely controlling. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I had to sneak out. And then I had to earn my right to leave the house. And when I left the house, my duties were to pick up his dry cleaning and so on and so forth. Right? So, and I was to cook and clean. And basically, I was a slave. That's pretty much the way it went. And, well, the only way Dr. Franks could wave his flag was if he was hurting you in bed. I mean, choking you by your throat. Seriously. And he'd have to be rough on you. That's what he did. And he would do things that were really bad to me. And I would just cry. I didn't know what else to do. I was so stuck. I'd call my consulate to get a passport, and nobody ever called me back, just so you're aware. So don't trust your consulate. Never trust the consulate. I did, and when I finish telling you all the facts, you'll understand. Well, then he was taking my money. I even snuck out a couple times to the casino because, my old boss taught me how to play blackjack, and I'd won some money, 15,000 pounds. I think it was another 8,000 pounds. There was several. I had like 4 trips. Well, Dr. Stephen Franks took it from me. Took all that cash from me, too. And he controlled everything. Run up my credit card to about 30-some-odd thousand. Took my air miles and took his 2 kids and went to Cancun, Mexico on my air miles. And I'm talking hotel, plane, car, and everything. And so then every night he was giving me a cup of tea. Well, then something weird happened to me, and I had some kind of weird stroke or whatever. My heart was racing out of my chest, and it had kept going. It was either a heart attack or something, or a stroke, I don't know. But my left arm started acting funny, and I couldn't think in my head. Weird stuff was happening to me. And, Dr. Stephen Franks started taking me out to bars. And first couple of times he took me out to a regular bar, adult bar. And then the next time he took me out, he took me to a kiddie bar. And what I mean by a kiddie bar, a bar for kids. No alcohol. Got the disco strobes and the music and all that kind of thing. But no alcohol is served. And they're kids, 10 years old up. And he takes me there this night, and one night, and we go in there. And I still remember. Walk in the door. You follow it around to the right, if I remember correctly. And then you go on in that way. So it's like a hall thing that went around. And so, from what I can remember now, this was 16 years ago. And so we're in there. And I'm looking around. And I'm like, Stephen, what are we doing here? These are kids. And he smiles and he laughs. And he said, see those 2 little girls over there? And I said, yeah. He said, I want you to go over there and invite them back to the house with us. That's what he said to me. And I said, are you joking? You must be joking. He's like, no. And he's standing there all pristine and cocky like, the way he is, so sophisticated, and tells me, I want you to go over. He repeats it and tells me, I want you to go over there and invite those 2 girls back to our house. Those girls wasn't more than 12 years old. They couldn't have been. And I looked at him and I said, don't be ridiculous. And, well, he got the most vile look on his face, and he grabbed me by my arm, and he dragged me out of that place because I wouldn't do it. And he took me home. And I want to tell you what happened to me. He took me home, dragged me up the stairs to the bedroom, threw me down on the bed, flipped me over on my stomach, and then jumped on the bed on top of me. And he held me down, and he had me by my hair. And I couldn't move. I was pinned on my stomach. And he ripped off my skirt, and he ran that thing up my rectum. And I mean, he was hard on me, to the point where my rectum bled. And he had me by the throat, too. I'm on my stomach. And then after he's finished, and I'm drawed up in a ball, you can imagine. Well, and I'm crying. He told me that if I did what he said, what had just happened wouldn't have happened. And then he said, in that sick tone of his, if you'd just been a good little girl and did as I asked, this wouldn't have happened, he said. So, this was my life over there. And it happened over and over. He took me to London, and there was this bar that pedophiles took kids and people that, threesomes, and it was some kind of sexual deviant bar in the back of an alley. Then he took me on a trip to Paris, and there was a place there. We went, had a hotel, and we had dinner, and we went up this road. There was this old church there that they had painters and stuff, and there was this street, and there was all these sex shops and all that up in there. And he took me there, and same crap again. And honestly, folks, I hated his guts. I hated that man with a passion. And he would threaten me, and he would threaten my son, and told me I'd never see my son again. And I was scared, because that's all I cared about were my kids. Honestly, I was trying to, when I was in America, I was working real hard to sort out the mess that this guy, Kenneth Green, had caused for me. Because I wanted to be a mother and be with my kids. So, anyway, time went by, and Dr. Franks went on a business trip to America. And I decided that I was going to get out. I wasn't going to be afraid anymore. I was going to get out. And so I called a solicitor. In our country, they call it a lawyer. In their country, it's called a solicitor. It was a woman. And I told her what was happening. And I said, he's got my money. He's got my passport. I don't know what to do. He's abusing me. And I said, and he's a pedophile. Because he is. And anyway, she tells me to go and look for all the financial documents in the house. Because she told me that what they could do over there was protection for people like me, in their country. And that as long as I could get the financial documents, then she could go to court and get a court order and freeze his assets so she could get my money back. And she said she'd help me with my passport. Well, I started looking in the house for all the financial documents, anywhere and everywhere I could look. Bedroom, wherever. Office. Well, I got in the file cabinet, and I was going through his files. And in the bottom of that file cabinet, in the very last drawer, in the bottom, underneath all the files, was a folder, or not a folder, but what do you call it, like a vanilla envelope looking thing. And inside were these two things called zip disks, which I didn't know that's what it was called, just so you're aware. I'd never seen a zip disk before. It wasn't popular in America. I'd never seen it. We had floppies, you know. So, and they're hard cased, actually. And they're pretty thick and large, too, by a big round. And so there was a slot in the computer that one of them would fit. So I thought, well, maybe the financial stuff's on those. So I popped it in the computer. The first one. There were two. And the first one, what do you think I saw? Little naked boys and little girls. I mean, they couldn't have been more than 3. They was little. And my eyes got great big, and I thought, oh my God, you know, really. So then I flipped that one out, pulled it out of the computer, and I put the other one in. And when I did, well, they call it bestiality. I've learned that word. And, well, it was a woman having sex with a horse. I mean, mouth and all. It was nasty. It was disgusting. It was so disgusting that I run down the hall to the bathroom, and I dropped to my knees, folks, and I started vomiting. I was crying and vomiting at the same time. And I must have been in that bathroom a good hour, at least. And I got back up, and I was shaking pretty good, and I went and called the solicitor, and I told her what I found. She said, honey, she said, you need to call the police. So I did. I called the Thames Valley Police. And they came to the house, and they took them 2 zip disks that day. Well, I was trying to pack up my stuff, everything else. Dr. Franks got home. The solicitor served him with a letter, a demand. And he said, so you're going to play it this way? And I said, I just want my stuff, and I want out of here. I want away from you. And I was cold. I hated him. So, next thing I know, immigration's after me. Seriously. So I get out of the house. I'm staying in hotels. I'm just trying to stay away from him. Well, he's stalking me. I'm not kidding. And then there was this cop. Then he calls the police before I left and tells them that I abused his credit card. Actually, folks, he gave me his credit card to use that day on the computer. No kidding. To book some flight stuff. Because I was trying to work. Because he had all my money. So, anyway, when the police come to the house that day, I was downstairs. And the lady police officer, Stephen, told me to go upstairs. And she said, no, let her stay. Stephen said, no, going upstairs, he told me.